Greetings, my name is John O'Toole. So this is a different kind of idea to grow in microgreens. It's called the soilless or medium-less growing technique. Now there's a lot of different techniques out there for growing microgreens, and you really just gotta find the niche that you like. I think ultimately growing it in medium is the most successful way to grow them, but unless you're doing them on a large scale, it may not be affordable. So now this is using a mesh that, if you're familiar with dehydrators, they use to store food on. It's also the similar mesh that's used for needlepoint, a plastic canvas that you can use different color threads and yarns to create needlepoint on for various purposes. You wouldn't use it for a pillow, but you may use it to hang on the wall or something. So, as you've seen in my other videos, I've been working with cococuir for a long time, and it's very successful, but it's an expensive way to go, and you've got to have some place to put the compost. Where in this method, you can reuse your screen over and over again. Now, what I have found is that it's not as efficient with seeds, but I'm shooting a video of my first time using it. So when I ordered my screen, I assumed that I was going to have enough to do 2 trays, but I only had enough to do 1 tray. And also the scraps I was using to try radishes, microgreen in, so that I could sell just the radishes already growing in their own little tray. So in here I just put a cap full of a nutrition that it comes from the sea, from the soaking water, and then of course you're going to dump out the soaking water. So I put in 5 ounces of seed per tray, which is quite generous. Usually I would use 3 ounces per tray. And then I would fill up this jar with water and let it sit overnight to give them a good soak and to soften up the hulls so that it'll send a signal to the seed to germinate. Now these are half-gallon mason jars that I have. I think that if I were to do it in a larger scale, I would use the 32-ounce jars. And then I took the plastic caps and drilled my own holes instead of using a stainless steel screen, because that was what I had available to me at the time. So at this point here, it's going to sit overnight. So in this sense, I use a solid cover so that I store the jar on its side. But I think what you want to do is let the air escape out of it. So using a cover that has holes in it is a better idea. There you go. See you tomorrow in the snap of a finger. Ba-da-ba-ba-dum. Ba-da-ba-ba. So our next day has come along, and here we are. And I received the screen in the mail. I thought I had more than one sheet in it, so for $14, it was a bit pricey. Now you could buy this in bulk from the restaurant web stores, something like that. The name of it, you can get it for about $7 a roll, and you get 5 feet by 14 inches or so. So that would give you 3 trays out of each roll. And you could also look around at a craft store and try to find large sheets that you can cut. So these trays are 10 by 20 trays, 10 inches by 20 inches. And so you have to look for large sheets. This sheet was actually, that was its purpose, was for needlepoint. It wasn't the one for a high food grade hydrator. A food grade dehydrator. I can talk once in a while. Yeah. Now that I'll show you another down away. I retried this experiment using a food grade that I picked up off of Amazon, and to see how successful that one is. So because I only ended up with one sheet, I'm going to do one sheet with the mat, and I'm going to do the next tray without any mat at all. Just so the black trays have slots in them to let them drain out to the bottom tray. And if you've watched any of my microgreen videos, you'll have seen that it's basically a bottom watering system. The black tray has slots in it, and then the bottom tray is the white tray. That one is solid, and you would fill the bottom tray up. You wouldn't fill it up, you'd put in about a quarter inch of water, and it would feed the plants from underneath, which cuts down on a lot of issues with mold and mildew and root rot. The website that I get them from is from Johnny's. They're a food grade tray. They're not the cheap plastic that you're going to get on Amazon. So sometimes you want to be concerned about plastics that leach out into your food, particularly in this type of circumstance. So the 3 trays I'm trying out in this particular experiment is going to be the first tray has the white mesh. The second tray does not have the white mesh. They're both for sunflower seeds. And then the third tray I'm going to use for a 4-inch square clamshell, and it's going to be for the radishes. And that, if I wish to sell these at a later date, I could actually sell them as a growing plant inside the clamshell, and then a customer could actually snip off what they wish. As they grow, they would just have to add a little water every so often to the bottom. They could cut off the top and leave it on their countertop. And we'd put a paper towel in the bottom of the tray so that it could retain some water. So with the scraps that I had left over, I had enough to do five trays. So there we go. We got a sample that I'm going to cut up the different pieces with. So this material here is fairly stiff. It's a lot easier to work with. I ordered some black mesh that I ordered from Amazon that was designed just for this purpose, for using with a dehydrator. And it was a bit flimsy. It was kind of hard to get to lay flat because it comes in a roll. Whereas this white stuff came in an envelope that kind of maintained the amount of flatness to it. So it's just all about choices and what's available out there. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. So as you can see, you have the black tray that has the holes in it, and then the white tray goes in the bottom of it. Okay, so we're moving on to our next step, which is going to be adding the seed. Now there's some different ideas around doing your soak. You can do a 8 to 12 hour soak of your seed, and then you can go and plant that into your tray. You can also do is leave the jar up at an angle for another day or two and have them pre-sprout in the glass jar, and that gives you a little bit more emphasis to have a successful grow. Some people think that if you let it sprout first, that initial energy doesn't help orient it, because your seed is going to want to set itself up so that it's pointing in the right direction, and it's going to do that on its initial germination. And if you wait a little bit, and it's all about timing, folks, because you can look at it and see not one little tail out of the hulls, and come back the next day and they've grown an inch. And if they've grown an inch, they've pretty much grown too much. You're probably going to try them anyway because, quality sunflower seed is a bit pricey. It's like $1 a pound, so you don't want to waste your seed. You're just going to give it a shot anyway. But, and it's really your own choice. Temperature has a lot to do with it. The warmer your room is, the faster they're going to germinate. This is western Massachusetts, and we're kind of up on what I call Fairy Mountain. Fairy Mountain. we had snow. We had a snowstorm on Mother's Day. That's where we are. So when I started this experiment, it was about 70 in the house, and that was because it was warm outside. And then days later, it got cold outside, and now this room, this is a corner room in the house, and it was about 60 in the room for the rest of this experiment, which doesn't help much. You're going to want the room to be around 70 or higher, and not much higher, maybe 75. Not too much humidity. Dryness isn't so much a problem, it's the humidity. So somewhere between 70 and 75 and low on humidity is really kind of where you want to be at. So this is about 5 ounces dry of seed. And you want to really spread them out so it's a single layer. You don't want them mounded up anywhere. It's not an easy thing to do. You can't do a shake or anything with the tray to get them to lay flat, although you might try. But so you might spend a little extra time on this just to get everything where they want it. Now the plastic doesn't help with this particular part of it because the plastic is buckling here and there. Now I'm pretty keen on the stacking method. Stacking trays on top of each other and then put the seed of the least weight at the top and what's the weight on them. And it kind of gives the seed a kind of like a hello message that they are, it's time to start growing. Now it's not quite the same in this method because we're not running it into soil, and you don't have the soil hugging the seed to give it the impression it's time to grow. But it's along the same principle. And then when you're looking at the stack from the side, you can see the trays being pushed up by all the seeds working together. And the other part I didn't like about using the large mason jar was that it was a little hard to get the seeds out of the tray, out of the glass jar. But that's just trying to grab the last cookie out of the cookie jar, when you got your hand firmly clenched around it. Now I guess I could speed this up a little bit so you didn't have to watch 30 minutes of a boring guy playing with his seeds. But on the other hand, it kind of gives you an idea about how long it takes. And aside from waiting for it to overlap overnight, it doesn't really take as long as you might think it does. So again, there's the white tray going down first, the black tray that has the slots in it, holes in it, go on top. Now this one here doesn't have the white screen, So we're going to see how it does. Somebody else that's doing a similar type of growing, they suggested that I wouldn't need the screen, that the seeds would do fine because they're such a large seed. So in the next yes, I can talk. I really can talk on my own. So in the next video, which will be part 2, I'm going to show you how the seed did over days. Really, it took longer to grow than it has with the soil. So you have to kind of think about that when you're growing to either sell or for use for yourself, that the timing works for you. Now, some of that was related to temperature, but I think some of it was related to that it didn't have the medium. And the coconut cure doesn't have any dirt in it. It's just coconut. It's just the outside of the coconut rounded up and then compressed with some other things mixed in, some growing agents. Now, one of the things you got to remember to do is to make sure that you water these. You got to water them every day. You might have to do it a couple of times a day. It depends on how hot it is. And if you don't have the growing medium to use as a buffer, that's going to keep the seeds moist so they can easily dry out, which you're going to see down in part 2. So basically, after I did all this, each day I would fire up the camera and show you watering them. And then reassembling it. So on top of this tray is going to be the radishes. And then I put a tray on top of them, add some weight. Okay, so here, these are the squares for the radishes. And these squares will fit into the smaller clamshell, plastic clamshell. Now, interesting enough that the market drive is to go towards a renewable clamshell that you can't actually see inside them. They're made from a wheat product, and that they're biodegradable more so than paper or cardboard. And I find it interesting because you can't see in them, so selling them at a store is going to be a little bit more of a challenge for marketing them. But a lot of people are asking for something different. So here I'm just transferring the seed into something smaller so that I can shake out the seeds onto the screen. And it's a little easier on the hand than using the jar. But it's all about what you can do, your capabilities. Now you don't need to do a real solid coating like you do the sunflowers. If you overcrowd the peppers, they're not going to grow very well. So you just kind of have to take a guess. Usually it's about, for a 10 by 20 tray, I think I do about maybe 3 to 4 ounces, not a lot. So there you go. Just kind of a salt and pepper look. So these waterers are pretty good. You basically pump air into them, and they're really just meant for water. The ocean fertilizer that I have in the bottle, I used on one of these sprayers, and because it has seawater in it, the salt's actually clogged up the tip so that it won't work properly. But so you want to basically just use this for watering, plain water without anything added to it. So you give it a good soaking so they'll stay damp. Now probably the thing I would do if I tried this again would be to put a piece of paper towel down and then put down the squares and then the seed and then water it. And the paper towel will help retain moisture in the tray. So here I'm just putting some weights on the tray just to give it an idea that it's signaling it to start to grow. And that's it.